Elizabeth Ann Smart's life before kidnapping was that of a typical 14-year-old girl growing up in a close-knit, loving family. Elizabeth Smart was born on November 3, 1987, to Edward and Lois Smart in Salt Lake City, Utah. She was the second of 6 children, with 4 brothers and 1 sister. Elizabeth's upbringing was characterized by stability, security, and strong family values. The Smart family was deeply religious, active members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Elizabeth attended Bryant Intermediate School, where she was a diligent and high-achieving student. She played the harp and was known for her musical talent, often performing at local events and family gatherings. The Smart family was actively involved in their community. Elizabeth participated in various church activities and was well liked by her peers and neighbors. Her family emphasized the importance of faith, education, and service to others. Elizabeth's life before kidnapping was marked by normalcy and supportive, nurturing environment. Her kidnapping on June 5, 2002 was a shocking and traumatic disruption to this idyllic existence. Born on October 18, 1953, in Salt Lake City, Utah, Brian David Mitchell had a very disturbing upbringing. He was the third of 6 children into a strict Mormon household. His father, Cheryl Mitchell, was a toxic, strict figure in his life. His father subjected him to abusive and inappropriate lessons to toughen him up, which included forcing him to sleep outside and showing him explicit material. Mitchell's father will repeatedly show him sexually explicit photos from a medical journal. Based on his teaching, Mr. Mitchell wanted to shape his son to be a strong, independent man, but it did the exact opposite. Brian Mitchell was verbally and physically aggressive with almost everybody within his family. One thing Mr. Mitchell would do was leave his son in unfamiliar parts of Salt Lake City, Utah, forcing Brian Mitchell to figure out his way back home. This teaching probably played a part in Mitchell's skills and comfort in living outside and evading different properties and trouble. Mitchell struggled during his teenage years, becoming increasingly rebellious and experimenting with drugs and alcohol. At 16, he went to juvenile hall for exposing himself to a child. He dropped out of high school and eventually married at a young age of 19 to a 16-year-old Karen Minor, fathering 2 children with her. His first marriage ended in divorce, and he lost custody of both children, largely due to his erratic behavior and neglect. After his first marriage, Mitchell became devoted to being sober and an active member of the Latter-day Saints Church. However, he eventually started to develop extreme and unorthodox religious beliefs. He saw himself as a prophet and began to preach his own interpretations of scriptures, which became increasingly bizarre and apocalyptic. He would once again marry a lady with 3 children herself named Debbie Mitchell, fathering another 2 children with her. Just like his previous marriage, this one also ended in divorce due to abuse, neglect, and molestation of their 3-year-old son and one of Debbie's daughters. The day their divorce was finalized, Mitchell again married a lady named Wanda Eileen Barzee. Wanda Eileen Barzee was born on November 6, 1945, in Salt Lake City, Utah. Details about her early family life are less well documented, but she experienced a relatively normal childhood. Barzee had a turbulent personal life with multiple marriages. She married at least 3 times and had 6 children. Her relationships were often unstable, and she struggled to maintain family cohesion. Her children later reported a tumultuous home environment with allegations of neglect and emotional abuse. Barzee had a history of mental health problems, including depression and other disorders, though the extent and specifics are not fully detailed in public records. These issues were exacerbated by her relationship with Brian David Mitchell. Barzee was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. However, her beliefs took a radical turn after she met and married Mitchell in 1985. She became increasingly drawn into his delusional vision and accepted his self-proclaimed role as a prophet. Together, they adopted extreme and apocalyptic beliefs, which further isolated them from everyday society. Their relationship was deeply dysfunctional, characterized by codependency and mutual reinforcement of their shared delusions. Mitchell's controlling and charismatic personality dominated Barzy, and she became complicit in his criminal activities.
Don't make a sound. Get out of the bed and come with me. I will kill you and your family.
In the early hours of June 5, 2002, 14-year-old Elizabeth was threatened by a cloaked Brian Mitchell with a knife to her neck, demanding she comes with him. Mitchell, who had previously done odd jobs at the Smarts household, entered through an unlocked window to break in. Mary Catherine, who shared the same bed with Elizabeth, pretended to sleep but later woke her parents up around 4 a.m., telling them about the incident. However, thinking she was having a nightmare, they did not believe her until they found the screen window that had been cut from Brian Mitchell. Mitchell led Elizabeth into the mountains where he and Barzy had set up a concealed campsite. There, the couple's objective was to subject Elizabeth to physical abuse, starvation, and mental manipulation as Mitchell sought to indoctrinate her into his delusional religious beliefs. When Mitchell and Elizabeth made it to the camp, she met Wanda Barzy. Smart would call Wanda the most evil woman she ever met. She was just evil and twisted. Barzy proceeded to take Smart inside of a tent, washed her feet, and told her to change out her pajamas into a robe garment. After she put the robe on, Wanda left and Mitchell came inside the tent. He performed a wedding ceremony in which he made Smart his wife. He would conclude the ceremony by raping her multiple times. The search for Elizabeth Smart was one of the most extensive and high-profile investigations in U.S. history. Her disappearance garnered nationwide media attention, and thousands of volunteers joined law enforcement in the search efforts. Despite these efforts, months passed with little progress. A key point to the eventual breakthrough was Mary Catherine, who in October 2002 recalled Mitchell's voice and identified him as Emmanuel, a name he had used while working at their home. This revelation reinvigorated the investigation, leading to the sketches and descriptions of Mitchell and Barzy. Elizabeth Smart was subjected to various types of abuse during her 9-month captivity. To keep her from escaping, Smart's ankles were shackled to a tree with a metal cable. Brian Mitchell's personal objective was to indoctrinate Elizabeth Smart by breaking her will. First, Mitchell forced Smart to take a new name, which he chose the name Esther from the Old Testament. Next, Brian Mitchell would repeatedly rape Smart every single day of her captivity. Rape was a daily torture for Elizabeth Smart. On some days, she was even assaulted 3 to 4 times. Brian Mitchell would commit these horrific acts with the belief that Elizabeth Smart would forget her family and submit herself to him. However, that never happened. Mitchell would punish Smart anytime she resisted his advances or reminisced about her family. These acts would anger Mitchell and Barzy because it showed that their plan was not working. So the couple would expose Elizabeth to pornographic magazines, alcohol, drugs, rotten food, and constant death threats. Every time when I thought I hit rock bottom, my captor would find something new to make it worse, Smart stated. Elizabeth Smart was never a victim of Stockholm Syndrome, but during her captivity, Smart realized by complying with the couple's demands would gain trust with them and loosen their alertness around Elizabeth Smart, which became true. Smart accompanied Mitchell and Barzy in public on numerous occasions. During these public appearances, Smart began to recognize how huge her abduction was in the media. Any hope of her being recognized in public was shot down by Brian Mitchell dressing her down in an all-white gown covering her face and body. In one scenario, in August 2002, the couple and Elizabeth went to the Salt Lake City Public Library to research potential places to relocate. One patron in the library was concerned about the state of Elizabeth when they both locked eyes. So the patron called the police after the silent yet disturbing encounter. A police officer arrived at the library and confronted Mitchell, Barzy, and Smart. But Mitchell shot down the officer's suspicions by stating the choice of clothing and the muteness of the ladies were due to the rules of their religion, even using the events of 9/11 to gaslight the officer. It worked, and the police officer walked away. Elizabeth Smart later recalled the incident by saying, I felt like hope was walking out the door. I felt terrible that the detective didn't push harder. He just walked away. To escape the grueling winter conditions, Smart and her captors relocated to San Diego County, California in September 2002. During their time in California, the story was the same. The abuse pursued, and some close calls of Smart being found. But Elizabeth noted that the bond between Brian and Wanda was breaking. The couple will argue about almost anything that they can think about, from lack of food and water, or Mitchell abandoning them and going out to the city and partying. In February 2003, Mitchell was arrested in El Cajon, California for breaking and entering a church, resulting in him in spending several days in jail. This led to Barzy and Smart left in the California heat without food and water. Once winter was coming to an end, Mitchell decided to take the trio back near Salt Lake City, Utah. Elizabeth's rescue came on March 12, 2003, where she was spotted in Sandy, Utah, a suburb in Salt Lake City. Mitchell, Barzy, and Elizabeth were walking down the street when they were recognized by two separate couples who had seen media coverage of the case. Police were alerted to the scene. Elizabeth, disguised in a gray wig and sunglasses, was recognized during questioning by the officers. The officers arrested Mitchell and Barzy and reunited Elizabeth Smart with her family. The emotional reunion and her public appearances highlighted her remarkable resilience and the enduring strength of her family. Following her rescue, Elizabeth Smart faced the daunting task of rebuilding her life. Her testimony during the trials of Mitchell and Barzy were pivotal. In 2010, Mitchell was found guilty of kidnapping and other charges, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Barzy, who had pleaded guilty to kidnapping and unlawful transportation of a minor, was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison, but was released in September 2018. I do believe she's a threat. For me, I know the depth of her depravity, Smart said in a press conference following Barzy's release. The abduction of Elizabeth Smart brought significant attention to issues related to child abduction and the criminal justice system's response. Her case underscored the importance of rapid response, public awareness, and the critical role of media in distributing information. It also highlighted the psychological tactics used by abductors to control their victims, emphasizing the need for specialized training for law enforcement in handling such cases. Furthermore, Elizabeth's devoted advocacy work has had a profound impact. In 2011, she founded the Elizabeth Smart Foundation, which focuses on preventing future crimes against children and supports victims of sexual violence. Her memoir, My Story, and her public speaking engagements have inspired many, providing hope and encouragement to other survivors of traumatic experiences. The abduction of Elizabeth Smart was a tragic and traumatic event that captivated the nation and highlighted significant issues in child protection and law enforcement. Her survival and activism shows the resilience of the human spirit and the importance of continued effort to protect children from abduction and abuse. Elizabeth Smart's story is a powerful reminder of the strength of survivors and the critical need for vigilance and compassion in the face of such horrors.